Hi, my name is Craig, and I want to share with you my experiences with my brand new eChopper Arrow. So, what is the eChopper Arrow? Well, the eChopper Arrow is based off of one called the M1. And what I've come to find out is this was a little bit difficult to find this out. There's only a couple places that sell them. Not a lot of people talk about specifics and things like this before you actually get your hands on one and start looking at it. But the M1 is a Chinese based electric scooter. So it looks like a kind of a Harley cruiser style motorcycle. It has a 20 to 28 to 30 ampere battery range, so anywhere from 50 up to 75-kilometer range, depending on which battery style you have. The M1 was the first. Then there was one referred to as the X9, and then, of course, one referred to as the Arrow. Now, from what I can tell so far, both the X9 and the Arrow are the two newest of models. Now, these two new models are both 2020, 2021 time range it seems. And the difference between the two, both of them are the M1. And in fact, when you buy one, all the paperwork, the documentation, everything that you have, all referred to as the M1. Now, from what I can tell with the X9 and the Arrow, 2020, one of the differences is that the X9 had the analog blinkers and things like that, whereas the Arrow already had LED blinkers. They both now have LED blinkers. And the two differences, or the main differences that I've noticed on them, is the X9 has more of a squared off fender. So both have wide fat boy fenders, with the X9 being more angled, more 90-degree angle on the sides, whereas the Arrow is more rounded overall. Color schemes seem to be the same. And the other big difference that I've noticed on them is the Arrow is advertised as a 20 or a 30 milliampere battery, whereas the X9 is a 20 or 28. Range difference, the 20 says rated for around 50 kilometers, and the X9 or the 30 ampere on the Arrow or the 28 ampere on the X9 are both saying somewhere between 50 and 75. Now, when I asked one dealer who sells them what that actually means, what is the difference, their response to me was, the mileage is rated on a flat surface at the maximum speed possible on a full charge. A person weighing 75 kilos should get about 75 kilometers on the 30 ampere, whereas on the 20 ampere they should get around 50 kilometers, like that. But that is one of the biggest differences that I see between them. In terms of everything else, technology, the guts of the thing, the motors, everything, they're 2,000 watt engines rated. Their electrical motors and the back wheel both have hydraulic brakes. The other difference between the two is the seat. And not necessarily the seat, but the suspension associated. The Arrow has two fixed springs for the seat, whereas the X9 actually has an adjustable single one right underneath. So honestly, even at a bit heavier than the 75 kilos, I didn't notice a difference. I've test drove the X9 and I now have the Arrow. Didn't notice anything. I'm not riding over dirt. I'm not riding over really rocky, bumpy roads. If you're going to be riding around town on cobblestones in Europe or something like that, maybe you want to have a little bit more flexibility in your seat, but that would be about it. So that's what I've noticed so far. Here on the screen, you've seen some pictures. I've got some pictures playing while I've been talking here, so you're not just looking at an animated talking head. But I also want to share just some technical specifications right here, so you can take a look at it. Apparently these are the same regardless of the model. So definitely something to look at. And then here in Germany, this has the permission to be driven on the street, provided you have a license for it. And now the license for me, here in Germany, the licenses go from the 1st of March till the 28th of February. So they're every year you have to renew. Every year it's a different color. And many of the insurance companies will prorate the insurance so that if you happen to buy it like I did in September, you don't pay full price. And then there is, of course, a difference if, at least here in Germany, if there's going to be somebody under the age of 23 riding on this as well. So definitely things you have to check in your local environment, what's allowed, what's not allowed, where it's allowed, and all of that. But I've been able to drive on the street. I've done over 100 kilometers on the thing so far. Absolutely phenomenal, fantastic experience, and extremely happy with it. Price to value ratio, I definitely would say it's okay. And of course, I want to make a couple more of these, show a couple of extra little things. Definitely quite happy with it. I am kind of curious about the controller inside. I did do a little bit of research. I'm still trying to figure out this specific controller. It's not very well labeled, but some of them do have like Bluetooth modules and things like that. I'm also curious, can you customize the display or anything? My display, I've noticed, my phone. So if I ride with the phone, I'm using just a third-party tool called GPX Tracker. I'll link to that in the description. When the bike says I'm going 50, my GPS tracker says I'm going 46.3. Slight variation there. I've also, if I track all of my rides, give or take, a kilometer here or there, I'm showing on the display 103. However, I'm showing just under 100 in the routes that I tracked in terms of movement. So there is a little bit of a discrepancy. The bike actually shows you faster and further than what my phone does. But granted, I'm using a phone, right? How accurate can that be? Or is that in comparison? So definitely things to consider, but I do feel comfortable around the display on the bike telling me 50 kilometers. I do feel comfortable doing a 50-kilometer ride with the thing. Now, I am definitely more than 75 kilos. Oh, but I am seeing roughly around the 54 to 59 kilometer range on a 30 ampere battery. I could push it a little bit. I haven't tried yet. I'm still making sure I get used to it and everything like that. And from a comfort perspective, the longest I've done so far is between 23 and 25 kilometers. Felt totally fine, very comfortable, very easy, no uncomfortable seat or anything like that. So just things to keep in mind. Yeah, I'll keep this a little bit shorter, and that'll be my first little check-in on what I've done. And if you're interested in how I'm tracking a lot of this stuff, I did do a video prior to this one on how I keep track of my battery charging, and I've got another one that I'll do on how I keep track of my individual rides. So stay tuned.